Cold, wet, homeless. Those words didn't just describe the boy sitting outside my coffee shop in the relentless afternoon rain. They bled into him, his very essence soaked in despair and neglect. Perfect. The weather had been unstable all day, as if nature itself was trying to erase him from the world. I watched him, almost like a spectator, as he cycled through the seasons with each passing hour, first in a thin tee and shorts, nibbling on a bagel as if he was still trying to convince himself he belonged to the living. Later, a jacket and cap pulled low, the weight of the world pressing down as he buried himself in a dog-eared book. He was a college student, maybe early 20s. I couldn't tell if he was actually enjoying the book. His eyes were locked onto the pages, but there was something frantic about the way he flipped through them, as if the words were not a source of comfort but of escape. When I glanced out the window later, the book was gone, and in its place, he curled deeper into a tangled nest of drenched blankets, his body stiffening against the cold. His attempts to find warmth were futile. The plastic raincoat he wore futilely attempting to shield his thick brown curls from the downpour. By the time the evening approached, the boy had become a constant in the back of my mind. Every time I looked up from my work, he was there, shifting positions, a statue in a sea of rain. I made pastries, watching him from behind the counter, my flour-covered hands trembling as I turned the dough. His movements were almost mechanical, sitting, lying down, curling into the fetal position, all with the same empty, hollow gaze cast at the sky. I made a fatal mistake when I peeked outside to check on him while serving a customer. The boy's back was to me. He was still, too still. I excused myself and grabbed a blanket from the back, rushing outside. He didn't look sick, just broken. I nudged him with my foot, unsure if he'd react, a groan guttural. "I'm not moving," he muttered, his voice thick with exhaustion, his words barely a breath. He yanked the blankets tighter around himself, as if they were his last defense against the world. And then it hit me. The tone. It was sarcastic, drenched in irony, like he wasn't just cold and wet. He was actively rejecting life itself. "I'm not doing anything wrong except existing," he continued, his voice sharp, bitter. "If you touch me, you'll regret it." I stepped back, the blanket clutched against my chest, and whispered, "Do you want to come inside?" His head turned slowly, his face a mixture of confusion and something darker, something I couldn't place. His eyes, bloodshot and hollow, looked through me, not at me. "Shit," he muttered, voice soft but mocking. "You're not Karen." I frowned, confused. "Karen?" He smirked, shaking his head. "Karens, plural. They've been shooting me dirty looks all day." He shrugged, and for a moment, it was like he wasn't even human, like he was just a figment of my tired mind, some apparition conjured by the rain. The longer I stared at him, the more I saw beneath the surface. His face was beautiful in an unsettling way, a sharp jawline, wide brown eyes, and freckles scattered like forgotten stars. But there was something cold about him. His hygiene was impeccable, as if the filth of the streets could never touch him. His clothes were ragged but clean. It was almost as if he cared more about maintaining a perfect exterior than the shattered reality inside. I stood there in the rain, soaked, my hair plastered against my forehead. The boy seemed to notice, finally shifting his gaze from the ground to me, his lips curling into something between a grin and a sneer. But there was something in his eyes, something darker than I had seen before. I was too close now, too close to turn away. I could see the emptiness, the hollowness that echoed in his face. He wasn't just cold, he wasn't just wet, he wasn't just homeless, he was dying. It wasn't a physical death, but something far more terrifying. The will to live had been bled from him, sucked dry by something deeper than mere despair. It was as if he had already checked out of the world, his merely a vessel on autopilot. And then it hit me. This wasn't just some boy struggling on the streets. This was a boy who had already given up, a boy who wasn't just waiting to die. He was planning it. I stumbled back a step, my breath catching in my throat. I could almost feel the weight of it pressing down on me, something cold and suffocating in the air between us. The boy's lips parted again, but this time his grin twisted into something more sinister. "What?" His smile spread impossibly wide, and for a moment I wondered if his lips would crack under the strain. But then his voice dropped to a whisper. Don't worry, you won't have to worry about me much longer. I wanted to say something to stop him, but I couldn't. I just stood there, frozen by the pull of something far darker than the rain. What was I supposed to do? What could I do? I wasn't prepared for this, for him, for the weight of the behind his eyes. I'm not doing anything wrong except existing, he repeated, as if the words themselves were his only defence against the world that had already forsaken him. I stood there, paralysed, my mind swirling with conflicting thoughts. My body wanted to pull away, to leave him in the rain and pretend like this moment had never happened. But something about the way he spoke, so detached, so cold, pulled me in further. He wasn't just another lost soul begging for a handout. He was a storm, a force I had no hope of understanding, and I couldn't help but feel myself drawn toward him, like a moth to a flame. "You're not doing anything wrong?" I managed to say, the words tasting foreign on my tongue. "Then why are you out here? Why not just leave?" He laughed. It was a sharp, humourless sound that sent a shiver crawling down my spine. "You think I can just leave?" He paused, eyes narrowing as he stared at me, as if seeing right through the facade I wore. "No, man. I'm not like you. I don't get to leave. I can't just move on and forget all this." He motioned around at the empty street, the broken world he had embraced as his reality. I didn't know how to respond. I had seen people like him before, the hopeless ones, the ones who had been ground down by life until they became shadows of themselves. But this was different. There was a darkness in him that went beyond mere exhaustion. He wasn't just a victim of the world's cruelty. He was actively decaying from the inside out, and I could see it in every tremor of his hand, in the hollow stare of his eyes. He wasn't just fighting to survive, he was fighting to forget he ever existed. "You don't have to do this," I said, though I wasn't sure who I was trying to convince. Him or myself? He didn't answer right away. Instead, he reached up, brushing his damp hair out of his eyes. There was a strange stillness about him, a silence that felt like it carried 1,000 untold stories. "You don't get it, do you?" he muttered. "You look at me and all you see is a broken person. But it's worse than that. I'm a ghost, a shadow that's left behind. I'm just here, existing, and I'm fucking tired of it." He let out a soft, bitter laugh, then slouched further into his blanket, wrapping it tighter around himself, as if to protect himself from the invisible threat that hovered around us. I took a step forward, my heart hammering in my chest. "You don't have to stay out here. You don't have to keep punishing yourself. Come inside, at least. Get warm. Let me help." His eyes flicked up to meet mine again, and for a brief moment I thought I saw something human in them, a flicker of recognition, a spark of desperation. But it was gone in the blink of an eye. He shook his head slowly, as if the offer itself was absurd. "You think it's that easy? You think I can just walk away from all this?" He waved a hand at the rain, the emptiness, the world he had long since given up on. "It's too late for me." I didn't know what to say. I was trying to save him, trying to offer something he hadn't even asked for. But it wasn't enough. Not even close. And then, as if to prove me wrong, he sat up suddenly, the motion jerky, like a broken doll coming to life. "You know what, Jules?" His voice was soft, almost like he was talking to himself, but the words sent a chill through me. "I've been thinking about it, about what you said, about leaving, but I don't think it's about leaving anymore." He smiled, but it wasn't a smile, it was something darker, something empty. "I think it's about letting go." He took a deep breath, then seemed to collapse inward, his shoulders shaking with silent laughter that sounded more like a sob. I couldn't look away. I wasn't sure if I was supposed to help him or just leave him be. Either way, I was trapped in this moment. His words were a noose around my neck. "I don't want pity," he added, his voice thick with bitterness. "I don't want anyone to feel sorry for me. But at the same time, I don't want to be alone anymore. Not like this. Not with the shadows in my head." I reached out, uncertain but desperate to do something, anything. I wanted to pull him inside, offer him a place to stay, to tell him that he wasn't alone. But the words stuck in my throat. He wasn't asking for help, he was asking for an escape. "I don't know if I can help you," I whispered, my voice barely audible above the sound of the rain. "But I'll try to help you find a reason to stay. You're not alone, okay?" The boy looked at me, his eyes filled with a kind of haunted wisdom that unnerved me. No, Jules, he said softly, his lips curling into a painful smirk. You don't get it. I'm already gone. His gaze drifted back toward the sky, his body sinking into the wet blankets as if the weight of the world had finally crushed him. I'm just waiting for the end. I didn't know what to say to that. How could I fight against something so final, so absolute? He wasn't just giving up on life, he had already given it up. The storm wasn't just outside, it was inside him, tearing him apart piece by piece. I wanted to argue, to tell him that there was still hope, but there was something in his eyes, something broken, something that told me he had seen and felt enough pain to fill an entire lifetime. Before I could speak again, he reached out, his hand trembling. I'm sorry, he murmured, his voice almost inaudible. I didn't mean to drag you into this. I knelt down next to him, unsure of what I was doing, unsure of what I was offering. It's not too late, I said, my voice shaking. You're not beyond saving. Please just give me a chance to help. But even as the words left my mouth, I knew they weren't enough. The boy wasn't just lost. He was already slipping away, his body shutting down, his mind already half gone. And I couldn't pull him back. His gaze met mine once more, this time with something softer in his eyes. Thank you, he whispered, his lips barely moving. But this is the way it has to be. And in that moment I knew that the boy I had been trying to save was already gone. He was already beyond my reach, his soul had already made its choice.